NoFap. How do you know you're in a flatline? Well, since it took me more than 7 years to finally stop relapsing, it means I had a lot of different streaks going on back when I was rebooting. This also means I had to face the NoFap flatline so many times. And even though the streaks were a bit different from time to time, for me the flatline almost always felt the same. And here were the most typical things I experienced. The first sign was a complete loss of libido. It felt like someone had pulled the plug to whatever machinery drives libido, and I was indifferent about all things related to sex. However, the ironic part here is that one can still relapse. Why? Well, because if you have a porn addiction, then you do not always relapse because you're horny. In fact, most of the time it has nothing to do with that at all. But you relapse because your brain is looking for a quick dopamine fix. And even if you have no libido at this point, your brain still remembers some of the sessions back in the day where you actually got a pretty high dopamine spike. So even if you feel no drive right now, it thinks it's a solution. But if you do relapse, it delivers almost no enjoyment at all, which leads me to the next sign. If I did use porn or did have sex during a deep flatline, the arousal was very low and my boners did almost not even work. It was like having a 6-cylinder car, but you're only running on 2 cylinders at most. Very disappointing. And during the flatline, it's almost like you can even notice this without having sex, which leads me to sign number 3. If you see a very attractive woman according to your own standards, your brain can objectively tell that she's attractive, but you do not have any physical response in your body at all, and you don't feel any tingly sensations or, those typical thoughts of, none of that. It's like everything is dead. So let's say you're standing in line to pay for your items in the grocery store, and right in front of you, you have a woman who is a complete 10 according to your own standard. Well, if you're in a deep flatline, you feel completely indifferent, and you just know that if you two were a couple and you went into some kind of side room right then and there in the store, it would be a huge disappointment because of the lack of those normal pleasurable responses. Which leads me to number 4. Physical signs. You have temporarily lost all sensitivity down there and your penis feels cold and lifeless. Yes, and during the flatline it can even be physically smaller. Yes, it's like normally when you're walking around, if you shift your focus down there, well, normally you can feel at least something. I mean, you can feel your wiener touching a bit against the fabric of your boxers while you walk, for example. But if you're in a deep flatline, then it's like it's almost not even there. And when you go to the toilet and look down on it, it can literally be smaller, a bit shriveled up. A good way to describe all of this is that both your libido and your penis is temporarily detached from you. And that can indeed be a very scary feeling. Also, normally when you're not in a flatline, the wiener feels fuller. That it has a bit of weight to it when it's hanging there. But no, not during the flatline. You can't really feel anything like that at all right then. Sign number 5. Morning wood has disappeared. Now, it is possible to be in a flatline during the daytime and still have some kind of morning and night woods going on. But for many people, it is very normal to lack morning wood here. And this was certainly the case for me. And lastly, a bonus sign. Mental symptoms. Yes, it's also very common to feel a low mood during the flatline. Even worse motivation and drive than usual, and I personally would describe this period of lower mood like I had a black hole in my chest, a dark void, like something was missing in my life. Now, there are guys out there who do not suffer from any negative mental effect during the flatline, and they only notice effects related to their libido. But it is very, very common. Remember now that the flatline is only a temporary phase, and once you get out of it, you will feel better than ever before. Yes, the flatline often starts somewhere in the first to third week and can normally range between 10 to 70 days. But that range needs to be taken with a big grain of salt, as everyone is different here. Some people don't even descend into a flatline at all, while some run into several flatlines during the reboot journey. Yeah, so the flatline can come and go a few times. And it can do that even during the same streak. In other words, even if you don't relapse in between these flatlines. And yes, there are also some unlucky people who will have a very long flatline, far longer than 70 days. And I will talk more about that in a coming video, so consider subscribing for that. And okay guys, speaking of rebooting and different timelines, if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you download my 90-day no PMO advice and tool guide while it's still available for free. Now this guide is not an online course or anything big like that, but it's an easy to read PDF file, almost like in bullet point form, with 13 bullet points for each week, as it takes 13 weeks to complete a 90-day challenge. It's a fun and very helpful reboot guide where I have taken into account what I have discovered about how it's normal to react during certain phases of your journey, and then implemented specific action steps that are best suited for you to do during those specific phases. From a psychological and neurobiological standpoint. For example, things that are typical to experience in the second week, and some things that are very normal to run into in the third week, and so on. And of course, I give you suggestions on what to do about it as well. So grab that guide right now while it's still available for free. You can see the guide on the screen right here. Just click on that and get it now. And oh hey guys, take a look at the video you can see on the screen right here if you want to discover how 4 different brain changes start taking place inside your brain if you become addicted to porn. Just take a look right now and you'll see exactly what I mean.